Hey there everyone, it's Misty here, design team member with Stamp Anything. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, we are using Stephanie, and we're going to send her to jail. I sent the finished picture of the card to Kevin. It was like, I put your sister in jail, and he just kind of laughed. So I am stamping this stamp with a Copic friendly ink. This is a piece of the Hammermill 100-pound paper. This is the one I love. It's cardstock, 100-pound cardstock. This is my favorite Copic paper, and I've stamped her in the middle because she's going to be in the middle of this gel. Now I'm stamping on a piece of Eclipse masking tape. You can get this off Amazon. You can also use, I think Gina K has some. You can also use like removable sticker paper. You could use a Post-it note, whatever you wanted. But this is sticky. We're basically making a mask. We're not making a one-layer card per se, but I wanted it to be, I wanted her to be flat because we're going to be making a shaker card using her words. So I brought in my little Fisker's knife to cut around where there's some opening, and then I'm going to bring in a stencil. So I store my stencils in a 6x8 Simple Stories like Project Life book, and I bought a bunch of the full-size 6x8 pockets, and then I put in a half-size sheet of paper inside, and that's how I store my stencils. So this is the cobblestone stencil, and I am using a couple of inks. I'm starting with the light ink, and I'm just adding a bit of this to the background. I don't have one of those sticky pads like a lot of people do, so I have to ink mine the other way. But the whole point of this is to make it look like that she's in a gel cell, and not like in the 1800s, not like a cinder block gel cell, but like a cobblestone one. So that's what I did. I also picked up some sticky mats, like the ones that you put your paper on and then the stencil on and then they stick. Do I know where I put them? The answer to that question is no. No, I don't know where I put them. So I am using the darker ink and a different brush to color in the actual stones. And again, we made a mask. Not that this is going to be a one-layer card because we're making it into a shaker card, but I wanted her to be flat. I didn't want to have to put like a piece of acetate or something in front of her in order to make the shaker. So this is something that I highly recommend that you do. And I actually really love how this turned out. And the great thing about this mask is I can save it. And if I want to use her again and I want to do another one-layer card, I already have the mask ready to go. So here she is in all her glory. Now, you guys know I like to color darkest to lightest. And the brim of her hat, there would be a pretty deep shadow. I know it's probably hard to draw that as three-dimensional, but if you've ever seen a cowboy hat or if you've ever worn a cowboy hat, the brim comes pretty far over your face. So I will have all the colors I've used linked in the description box down below. I made her a auburn or like a redhead. I haven't used that hair color in a while, and I was really, I just wanted her to be a redhead. I don't know what else to say. Oh my word, my brain. Earlier, I don't know what Rob and I were talking about, Rob, my husband, and I said homework, and I was like, homework? What the heck? So welcome to my brain. Okay, so once I get some of the blush on, I'm going to go ahead and bring in R22 or R23 for her tongue. And then I'm going to do, like I said, red hair. And for the red hair, I use a lot of E's. I think 1918, 8, and a few others. And again, I will have all the colors listed out for you in the description box down below, along with a link to this month's release. Don't forget, if you're interested in any or part of this release, you can sign up for Stamp Club. The August release is going to be pushed back a little bit. So if you want to sign up for Stamp Club, you can sign up and get July's release, so this month's release, or you can sign up and get August release. All of that information is listed on the website, which is linked down below. It's open to US and Canada and international. There are two different clubs. There's also Stencil Club where you get, I believe it's 3 stencils a month for $10. I think that's what it is. If I'm incorrect, I apologize. But Anne creates, designs, cuts all of the stencils, so it's a really good value for sure. So here I'm just adding in the colors. I've given up on doing hair strokes. I'm just not very good at it. So many other people are so good at adding, like, I can't do it. I can't. I don't know what it is about it that I just can't do it, but I sure can't. I sure cannot. Once I get her hair finished, I'm going to move on to her hat. So I am putting her in a black felt hat. I wanted something that would stick out from the background. So that's why I didn't do like a straw hat or like a brown felt hat, etc. We're doing a black, and I'm using the Cool Grays 10, 8, 6, and 4. So I put the darkest in those 2 little divots that Anne gave us, and then I'm starting down at kind of where the brim starts, and I'm going up with the colors, and then of course the top of it will be the lightest color. I didn't have a cowboy hat because I have a big head. Like, it's a big head. It's like 7 5/8 inches big. I mean, it's a big head. So I never had a cowboy hat, but I do remember having Ropers. Isn't that the name of the brand? The jeans, and a pair of boots. And I wore them for about a year, and I was like, I'm over this. I'm over it. My brother had a pair of boots when we were kids, and he used to wear those and shorts, and when we would run around in the pasture and stuff. I grew up in the country, y'all, like in the country, like little small town. Didn't have a traffic light until there was an accident, and they're like, okay, we need a traffic light. I mean, it's little. Well, it's bigger now. Now they have a Sonic and a Dollar General and a Family Dollar and a Dollar Tree, so they're growing. But yeah, it was a small town. I think there was 85 of us that were in my graduating class. So we were pretty small. So a lot of people wore like cowboy boots and stuff. And my mom did. And so, yeah, like I said, I wore them for about a year, and then I was like, no. Plus back then they didn't have fun colors. Like, I would have loved a pair of purple cowboy boots, or even turquoise cowboy boots. Now they come in such fun designs and stuff. Ree Drummond, the Pioneer Woman, she's always sharing like really fun cowboy boots. So yeah, I think my biggest issue with cowboy boots is I have a very high arch, and the inside of a cowboy boot doesn't have any arch support. So yeah, anyway, that's the history of that's your history of cowboy boots and Misty. So I wanted her to kind of stand out from the background. So I took C4 and I went all the way around her to kind of give her a drop shadow. And you can't really tell it here, but you can definitely tell it in person that she is backed up a little bit from the background. So I wanted to color the bags a little bit of khaki. So I used E87 and E84. I think all of the Westerns that I've ever seen where people are still in money back then, they basically use like flour sacks. And those were like a beigey off kind of khaki color. So that's what I went with. For the $sign, I brought in a gold Sharpie, and I was thinking about redrawing on the $sign. I was like, Misty, no, that'll look ridiculous. Just move on. Just move on. Okay, so for the ribbon on her hat and her handkerchief, I'm coloring it red. So I'm using R59, R46, and R35. This is one of my most favorite color combos. And we're going to get that colored up. So I'm coloring where the folds are. That would be the darkest. And then the rest of it kind of fading out from that. It's not huge, so you can't do a whole lot of shading, but I feel like I was able to get a little bit of that done. Next, we're going to move on to her top, I believe. And I couldn't decide on no, we're moving on to the jeans. Why are there more blues than any other color? Can someone answer that? Can we get some more purples? I crap all the time about purples. So I wanted it to look like she was wearing blue jeans. So I'm just using a few colors. One of them died. So I ended up using B37, 45, and 23, I think. But I was in the middle of using one of them. I think it was 34 and it died. So I'm going to have to pick up a new one. I've stopped buying refills for Copics because I had like 3 that I bought refills for, and I had to end up replacing the marker anyway because the felt in the center had dried up. And once it's dried up, you just have to replace it. And I'm like, well, why am I buying refills? I'll just buy markers every time. I get mine at Scrapbook Pal. They're pretty low on their prices for Copics, probably some of the lowest I've seen, unless you have a way that you can buy them like wholesale, etc. So yeah. Here, I'm trying to decide on a shirt, and I decided to go with something a little beige. Initially, I wanted it to look like she was dirty. Like, I wanted to put, like, some smudges on her face and stuff, and I decided against it. So the shirt kind of makes her blend in a little bit, but I feel like her hair and her hat and stuff really draw your eye to her, and so it's not that big a deal. And then I just used a silver Sharpie marker for the belt buckle. Okay, so I bought this die from Stamp Anything. It's one of the slimline dies, specifically because I thought, ooh, that would make a really cool gel. So I cut it out, and then I realized that it's not tall enough. So it's plenty wide because it's a slimline, but it's not tall enough. So, yeah. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And then I decided to just use some, rectangle squares. So here I was like, oh, I could cut it. And I was like, no, that's going to look a little janky, and I don't want it to look too bad. So yeah. And I didn't want it to cover her face. Like, I was doing my best, you guys. Again, sometimes I get an idea in my head and the execution is where the hard part. So I brought in another piece of gray. I cut it at 5.5 by 8.5. This is the card mat dies, I believe, from Stamp Anything. And then I'm bringing in a smaller rectangle from my collection because there's not one that fits inside this one, because I wanted a frame, but I wanted to fit the entire front of a card. And so that die, that rectangle die from the set from Stamp Anything is the size, it's 4.25 by 5.5. So it's going to fit the entire front of a card. So I made my frame. This is going to be for the shaker. And then once I've done that, I am going to bring in my paper cutter, paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut down some gray into 1/4-inch strips. So I have the Fiskars trimmer. I've had this thing for eons. It has a lifetime warranty. I've used the warranty probably 3 times because I've had a few times where the wire guide has broken, but I cannot live without that wire guide. It's my saving grace. So if you're someone who cuts crooked, look into it. Crooked like a jaybird. I am crooked like a jaybird. Okay, so I put this over and I am just adding some tape runner. And initially I was trying to get these all even, and I'm like, Misty, this is going to take forever, and this is not you. Nothing you do is even. I tried my best. I really, really did. So I'm just adding these on, and then I'm going to cut them off. I am trying my hardest to get them as straight as possible, but it's me we're talking about. Fun fact, when I was a teacher, everything I've always, my right leg is shorter than my left leg. And I know everybody has a leg that's a little bit shorter than the other, but we're talking about like 1/2 inch shorter, almost an inch shorter. And so all of my bulletin boards, always lean to the right. So a friend of mine, she was a teacher too, but she taught at a different school. Like, I moved to a different school, and she's like, can I do your bulletin boards? I was like, yes, please. Thank you. I appreciate it. So here I realized that I wouldn't be able to see her face. And so while, she really wouldn't have this big of a gap unless it was a door. And I thought about making a door. I was like, no, Misty. So I wanted to be able to see her. So I cut out some of the gel cell things. So this is a piece of acetate. I mentioned before that classroom teacher, and when you inherit a classroom from someone else, especially someone older, you kind of inherit what they had. And the teacher I took over for had like 2,000 transparencies. And of course, that's very outdated. So I took them home with me when I left, and I used them for cards. So yeah, they're not quite as thick as some acetate is, but I don't mind that because it makes it so it's a little bit more malleable and I can move it around a little bit better. So I have some foam strips that I just got off the Zon. I had mentioned a product to a friend, and she was like, oh, I'll pick that up the next time I make an Amazon order. And I'm like, you don't order from Amazon every day. My husband has gotten into the habit of asking me every single day if we're getting a package. All right, so this is a shout out to Timothy, who used to be a design team member. I asked him what he did with his leftover drills from diamond painting, and he said, I use them in shaker cards, and so I have been doing that. I like to put the whatever you're using on the actual image and then take the front of the shaker to it. That way I can line it up a little bit easier. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll be able to see when I show you, but I'm taking off all the foam tape, the backer tape first. And then I'm using an embossing buddy to go around it. I probably should have done this a little bit better, but I didn't. So I picked yellow and green because gold and money. And I'm adding just a little bit of both. And then I am going to take this direct to paper, and we are just about done. And you can see there that she's looking cute. Bringing in a note card. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 once it's scored. Again, I picked these off Amazon. These have saved my life, especially last year on my own channel when I was doing like mass producing Christmas cards. It's the best way to go. So I'm actually going to put a sentiment on this card. I know, who am I? So this is her sentiment that says, let's cash up soon, I believe. When I initially started this voiceover, I was like, cash me outside. I'm like, wait a minute, Misty. That is not it. Oh, welcome to my brain. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm going to trim that down with the trimmer. And then I'm going to add some of that same foam tape to the back of it to get it adhered. And then I'm going to bring in some jewels. I believe Annabelle? Who sent these to me? I can't remember. Someone sent me these really pretty jewels, and I thought one of them looked like, a gold or a garnet or something, and the other ones look like rubies and emeralds. So I'm going to go ahead and put those on the sentiment. And once I do that, that's it. We're done. That's it. We're done. So that's it, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. So next week, instead of a new release preview, I will have one last Fannie Friday using July's release. We're going to make a ghost. So make sure you come back for that. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave. We're inching close to 500, Misty? I don't remember, 700. And I'm excited to do a giveaway. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.